Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another weekly episode of Unfiltered, the podcast, formerly known as Wired to Be Rich. And before we even get into today's episode, I know I still have the same intro showcasing my old title name. Some of y'all have emailed and said, do you know that you still have your old intro playing? I do, you guys. I put it there. My team is engineering a new intro as we speak, so just give it time, you guys. I'm a perfectionist when it comes to my art, so I have to make sure that it's perfect, right? So I'm working on a new intro, but for the time being, please enjoy the old one still. I want to get into today's episode and talk about one of the things that I feel like everyone in the dating field is experiencing to some degree, or at least has, right? It's the era of dating apps and going on dates with crazy people. Recently, last week, I went on a date with a crazy man, you guys. Like, it was a date from hell, truly. And it was so funny, too, because I was just like, never again. So, without further ado, let's get into today's episode so we can go ahead and jump into that. It's a really funny story, and I'm eager to share it with you all. So, let's jump right in.
She's not just a podcast host. She's a movement.
Manda Lea is teaching people how to break cycles and build real wealth, mentally, financially, and spiritually.
People all over the world are waking up to her message.
Wired to be Rich isn't just a podcast, it's a mindset shift.
She makes you believe again in yourself, in your power, and your ability to actually have the life you always known was meant for you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Manda Lea, entrepreneur, speaker, and founder of Balance and Destiny, and this is Wired to Be Rich. Okay, you guys, so I am single, right? And I've not been single that long, but I am like fully ready to start dating again. And one of my friends, has been telling me to download the Hinge app, and I've dabbled with it before. It just never was my thing. But you guys, when I tell you I got a date from there, and it was a date from hell. It was this guy, and he was Colombian. He seemed to have great conversation over the app, right? And so when I met up with him, actually, we met up at the Toyota Music Factory, and we went to Bar Louie just to, have a quick little bite, some drinks, and kind of have like a formal introduction to meet each other. So when I met him, we walked in. That was, first of all, it was like awkward, if I'm being honest. But I met him, and the first thing he said was, "There's too many white people in here." And I looked at him, and I was like, "I know you're Colombian, but you're the same color to me." But I was just like, "Oh, okay, you want to go somewhere else?" And he was like, "No, as long as you're cool." And I was like, "I don't honestly care, if I'm being honest." Now, before I get any further, this is not the first time I've dated outside of my race, you guys. So I was kind of prepared, but I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. Well, without delaying the story longer than what it needs to be, we sat down and he started like asking me questions, you guys. And I kid you the fuck not. When he asked me a question, I began to answer it. And as I'm in the middle of answering his question, he quickly asked me another one. It was like he had 30 tabs open in his brain, and he just said everything that was on his mind. It was so weird. And I was like, okay, is he joking? And I was like, trying to like peep his vibe. And I was like, oh, he's serious. Like, he's bouncing around quite a bit. Like he's all over the place. It was giving like severe OD, ADHD. But I don't want to I don't want to diagnose anyone. So I said, I'm trying to answer your questions, but you keep interrupting me and you keep asking me other questions. And then he kept bringing up random things like the finals and one of his favorite players and how his knee is bad. And it was like, okay. So then, we're conversing some more, and he's still bouncing over the place. Mind you, I walked in there maybe like 6:25. By 6:45, you guys, I was grabbing my little clutch, my little mini purse, and I gathered my little kitten heels. They were already on my feet, but I jumped off the seat and I scurried on up out of there. It was like I didn't waste any time. So he's, being weird, and he's like, making me uncomfortable. So then he proceeds to say, I'm talking to him like, I have like some arrangements for my family kind of set up over the weekend, and I got this going on and I got that going on. And I was just telling him like, my weekend plans. And he was like, oh, so one of my family members passed away. And like, I was telling him that, and he was like, oh, okay. I wish I could sympathize with you, but I don't know that person or you, so I can't. And I was like, fuck. I was like, okay, you don't have to empathize. Honestly, it's all good. Like, I'm not doing no tripping. So then, I talk about, like just my cousin passed away from addiction. And we were kind of speaking about that and how addiction is just like, such a big thing here in America. And I was trying to get into the political and side of things, right? So then he's like, do you think you have an eye for alcoholics? And I was like, probably, yeah. And he was like, well, can you sense anything right now? And I looked at him and I was like, yeah, I do. I was like, did you have some drinks before you got here? Because low key, like you low key giving me that you had some drinks before you got here. And he was like, no. And I was like, are you lying? And then he was like, okay, I may have had a few. And I was just like, I can tell. But I wasn't going to judge him because, some people have to have a little beverage before they go on a date because they're nervous. But I can honestly tell. I just thought he was a little crazy, but I was like, okay, he's clearly inebriated. And when we sat down, let me back up for a second. When we sat down, the waitress came over and was like, I'm going to go ahead and get y'all some waters and I'll come back and get y'all a drink. He was like, well, I already know what I want. I want you to bring me 2 shots of tequila. And I was like, dang, okay. Like, you ain't playing. Okay, cool. So we talked about his job. He works in finance, and where he lives and all the things. So after 20 minutes, I realized I had enough of the date, you guys. He had enough of my time. This man looked me dead in my eyes and he said, you don't look like a virgin. So can you speak to your experience? You guys, when I tell you, I looked at this man and I said, I'm going to go ahead and go. And I gathered my purse and I jumped. It was like a high bar stool. I kind of jumped down off the stool. I'm not that short, you guys. I'm 5'3", but still, it was a high top bar. So I kind of jumped off the stool and he was like, wait, but are we ever going to see each other again? I was like, no, I'm actually going to go home and call the police on you. Like, you're a crazy man. Who asks women that? Like, it was just insane. But me, I'm like, it is what it is. I leave and I go to one of my local bars here in Frisco to kind of just have me a nice drink because I haven't drank in a while. Well, I don't want to say a while, like probably a month. Not for any particular reason. I just hadn't been out, right? So I went outside. I need a drink after that because I was crazy. And I wanted some wings because the game was on. So I went out and I was chatting with this other guy that we had been texting for a little bit. Mind you, my friends told me to download Hinge, so I'm giving it a fair shot, right? Because apparently all the people our age between the mid-20s and mid-30s are heavily on the apps, and it's so common. So I'm going to give it a try, honestly. And not that I'm not meeting people in person. I am meeting a lot of people in person, but I'm like, you know what? Let's try the apps too. Like I'm young. It is what it is. So there was a guy that I had been, communicating with, and we were like, having deep conversations for a couple weeks actually. And he had wanted to meet up, but my schedule just didn't align. So I was out by myself after that horrible date fell. And me and him were just texting, and I was just like, he's like, where are you now? I told him where. And he said, I don't want to intrude on you, but if you are having a bad day and you're already out, I'd love to come, I'll come sit with you. I'm watching the game anyway. I can come watch the game with you and we can, get some drinks and food. I'm like, okay, cool. Mind you, he's from Hinge too, but I had just never met up with him yet. So he comes and he's actually a really cool guy. He's from New York. He's very fashionable. His outfit was top tier. Very, very, very sweet guy, very handsome guy. I mean, he was great conversation. We talked for at least over an hour, just back to back. Like, we had a lot of alignment, right? But with him, randomly, we're talking about, I don't even know, just about deep stuff. Like, he asked me, what's one thing you learned about yourself after your last relationship? And I said, I've learned to stop dating and entertaining people that I want to change. If I meet you and I see that you have, air quotes, quote unquote potential, but there's a few things that I want to change about you, then I'm just not going to entertain you anymore. Because there's a difference between actually, wanting to see someone evolve in the life that they are building for themselves and helping and supporting them in the life that they want to build for themselves versus sitting at home saying that this person could be doing this and trying to change that person. It's just, I'd rather meet people that I'm aligned with. And I really don't want to be with someone that want to change me because, the last guy, I feel like, oh, that's all he wanted to do. And I'm doing great, honestly. So it's like, I've learned to date people that I'm aligned with. I'm not dating people that I want to change. I'm not dating people for their potential. I'm dating people for who they are today. And if I cannot see myself being with that person long term today, then I'm not even going to waste their time because it's not that serious, you know? He was like, we had a great question, but we were talking about that. It was a great conversation. And then randomly, y'all, I'm talking about randomly, he says, oh, by the way, I haven't had sex in a minute. When I tell you my face turned up at him, the old version of me would have been sweet and been like, oh, ha, 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 ha. I looked at him in his face and I looked at him and I said, okay, why are you telling me that? Because it was so random. You know what I'm saying? It was so random, you guys. I was like, okay. I mean, I didn't know what to do with that information. So I said, why are you telling me that? And he was just like, no, I just, want to just go ahead and get that out there just in case you ever thought that I was here just for sex. No, we're out at a sports bar having a conversation about our past relationships and the growth that we've had. I wasn't thinking about sex. You know what I'm saying? It was so random. So I let it slide. I'm like, maybe he just volunteers information. So then we got into how, people can love bomb. And he's like, you have to watch out for men who are love bombers because a lot of men will try to shower you with things and introduce you to their parents and, be obsessed with you super early on. But it's because they're low-key imposters or they're hiding something about themselves or they have a bunch of failed relationships and they want us to hurry up and secure you. It's whatever. So I said, oh, no, trust me. I know. I said, I kind of had a little taste of that. If I'm being honest, I said, I'm just getting to a place where I've fully let that go. But love bombing is crazy. I mean, it's real. I said, but women can love bomb too. And he was like, how? Women can't really love bomb. I said, well, we can when we want something. If a woman isn't intentional and she just wants something, it may not be called love bombing because a woman's not going to, depending on where in the world you live. A woman isn't going to shower a man with gifts and stuff in the beginning stages. So it wouldn't be the statistical love bombing, but women will stroke your ego just to get something out of you. And they will stroke your ego hard. And I was just, having a conversation with him about that. I said, you got to be careful because a woman is a sniper and we know how to use our words to get what we want. I'm not saying me. I don't play those games. I'm not here to waste anyone's time. I believe in karma. Everything I do is from intention. But I'm there are a lot of women, as you see, who are out here who are snipers with a pretty face. And he was like, do you like to stroke a man's ego? And I said, absolutely. If I like you. He was like, well, is that stroking his ego or is that just affirming him? I said, it's really just affirming him. I said, I don't stroke egos of a man I'm not into. I'm not even going to give him that because I don't want any confusion. I said, but if I'm into a guy and we're dating of course I'm going to affirm him. But in slang term, you'd call it stroking his ego. So then he says, and this is just a conversation. I'm we're just talking. He's like, well, don't be stroking my ego. And I was like, why? Genuinely confused. I was like, why? And he was like, because you're going to end up stroking something else. Ew. Ew. I said, what? I said, that was random as hell. What? And he was like, did that make you uncomfortable? Yes, because, sir, are you good? So that was that. So then, I also tell him when he said that, I said, okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and go. He said, did I offend you? And I said, you didn't offend me. I said, I'm just a little tired. Obviously, you offended me, but I didn't want to tell him that right then and there. So he walks into my car. He holds my hand. I kind of step out into the road and as a car was coming and he was like, he pulled me and was like, stay right here. He was like, I'm going to, go get your car for you. Give me your keys, whatever. He was so sweet. But he seemed lustful, right? Because you kept bringing up sex. This was our first real outing. You know what I'm saying? Because I was busy before and it just wasn't, I'm not really with that. Okay. So I got home, he texted me. He was like, thanks for allowing me to come out with you. And I said, thank you for coming out. I hope you had a great night. I enjoyed your company because I did enjoy his company. And I wanted to also sleep on how I really felt. I didn't want to just make an impulsive decision. I wanted to go to sleep on it. And I woke up the next day, went to the gym. I was thinking about it and I was like, you know what? I'm really just not into him. So I texted him and I was just like, hey, long story short, I think you are a great guy. I think you have great conversation. I was like, but I am going to be honest with you. It threw me off when you kept bringing up sexual related topics. I was like, I know that you probably were joking, but I don't like men to even joke like that, especially on a first meetup. And it wasn't even an official date, right? It was like our first meetup because our schedule just couldn't align because I have a bunch of different, I have a lot going on and some of y'all know, some of y'all don't, in a good way, nothing bad. I'm just a really busy girl, and I'm getting ready to move. So it's like, I've been going hard with my finances, saving, investing, trading. Some of y'all know who are in my close friends on my socials, you know how hard it's going and you know how great it's going. My schedule is busy. So it wasn't even a real date. It was just like meet up because our schedules really couldn't align. But I just told him that I don't like that. And he responded and said, he thought about that when he got home and he recognized that it might have been inappropriate to kind of bring that kind of stuff up on a first outing because I don't even know you like that. And he was like, he's going to take that and do better for, his future dating experiences. And I just said, okay, I'm so happy that you were able to receive that. I was like, again, you are a great guy, but yeah. So the dating apps are done for me. I tried and it's just not for me, you guys. I want to stick to meeting people in person. And not saying that in person is even better, but there's a lot of people that say dating apps work. If you scroll on social media, you will see people saying they met the love of their life off of Hinge. But then you have a lot of people that have safety concerns. There's men, not just women, but men giving you these horrible dating stories. Just search for it. There's millions of videos. So it's just like dating apps just aren't for me. I do better with meeting people in person organically. I'm not a volume dater. I don't date multiple people at the same time. I hate texting multiple people at the same time. I don't do small talk. I like intentional conversation. And meeting someone in person just kind of really lays that foundation down automatically. And I'm going to stick to talking to the people that I have met in person and just date them and then continue to date new ones because dating apps just are not for me. And I think the biggest takeaway through this entire experience is more so not that I had a crazy dating experience last week, but more so I'm learning my dating style. I'm learning that I connect better in person. I'm learning that I feel like I'm rushing myself when I'm constantly swiping through apps or meeting people off of apps and agreeing to go on dates all the time. And nothing is wrong with that, absolutely. But that's why I said I'm learning my dating style. I'm genuinely not a volume dater. I can't do it. It overstimulates me in the worst way. And it irritates me in the worst way. And I'm learning that I blossom my best when I'm focusing on one attraction at a time, maybe two, right? Like if I go out today and I meet a guy and then I happen to go to the store tomorrow and I meet a guy, then that's different. But as far as holding multiple conversations with people on apps and hoping that they're just as normal in person, it's just not for me. And maybe it's just been my batch. Maybe the universe or God is like, you're a person. I have steps for you to meet your person. You're going to meet them this way. You're going to meet them that way. But it's not going to be through an app. And I'm willing to wait for that. I've only been single for a few months. And I have to keep reminding myself that it's no rush because I'm literally getting ready to move at the end of the year. I just got some of the best news today also that I cannot share on this very public platform, but some of y'all would know. So I'm excited. A lot of big things are changing. A lot of big things are happening. A lot of moves are being made. I'm accomplishing every single goal that I said that I was going to do. And I'm losing weight. I'm looking good while doing it. And I'm really enjoying myself right now. So it's like, why not continue to just stick with what I know? Stick with what I know works for me. And it's being patient and fully letting go and taking my foot off the gas when it comes to things that I cannot control and focusing on what I can. Pouring into myself every morning. And then organic meet cues, intentional vacation days, spending time with my family and friends, enjoying getting to know my body more, being more active. Like I said, I'm running miles that I could have never ran last year or 4 months ago. This past weekend, I went out, you guys, and I bought a pair of pants last year. And what's this month? June? Just in January, I had to suck in my stomach so hard just to button those pants up. And they were so tight on me. It was ridiculous. I put them on just past weekend and they're actually big on me now. That's why I'm like, I had to just trust the process. I don't want to be one of those people that just jumps from relationship to relationship. You get out of something and you're already talking to a new person. And my ex taught me that, the most recent one, because he does that. Why would I want to be like him in any capacity? Why would I want to be someone that constantly is searching to meet somebody in the name of getting married? I want to be present. I want to be alive. I want to be here. I want to allow things to come to me in the way that they're meant to come to me and truly focus on growing and expanding my life in the most beautiful way possible. And I just have to keep reminding myself, like, I have to pay attention to what works for me and stop taking advice from other people because what works for them may not apply to me. And I'm really just learning that. I'm really learning to, like, understand Manda, get to know what Manda likes, what works for Manda, and what makes Manda happy. And it's a beautiful process, you guys, and I absolutely love it. But yeah, I had a dating story from hell. I did a get ready with me and everything, you guys, just to have to damn near run out of the restaurant. And I'm telling you, like, I got a drink, and as soon as the first guy said that to me, saying about my virginity or lack thereof, I got my purse and I walked out. Like, I'm not here to play games with you, Sarah. Like, old Manda probably would have sat there through all those conversations I had, through both conversations I had that day with two separate men. I probably would have sat there and been nice and just heard them out some more. No, the minute you're weird, I'm getting up. Like, ew, I'm not doing that. Gross. So I no, but it's really funny though. I thought I'd share that because I'm like, wow, everyone has like some crazy dating app experience story. And I'm like, here's mine, you guys. And it's real. That man was insane. And then the second guy was horny as hell. I don't care what you say. Like, who talks about sex in any capacity on the first date other than men with bad intention? Go away, sir. So, yeah, that's my little tidbit for the day. I hope y'all enjoyed that story. I will be back again next week with another update. I don't want to speak too soon on some things, so next week we should be good to go. As always, I appreciate you listening. Tap in with my social media, my Instagram, my TikTok, my email, and of course, as always, I will link them in the show notes below. I love every single last one of you, and I hope y'all have a great rest of your week. I will talk to you next week. Bye.